Welcome back, everyone. This is the anniversary weekend for DBDL. We are turning 6 this weekend, but the birthday celebration will be tomorrow. Yet we are all welcoming you to an exciting game as well. Elysium, a great team whenever they are showing up. Oboy, an absolute fascinating team that can make some surprising changes, some surprising turns. So even though they're facing Elysium, everything is open here today. And with me for this best of three is the wonderful specTral. Welcome in.
Hello. Thanks for welcoming me in. I'm not gonna lie, this is a really fun match. Super enticing performances that we're about to see because I do know playing with some members of Elysium in the past, specifically Xeno and V1, they are very calm and collected people, and even under very intense situations. And although I have not had any communication or have ever talked to anybody on Oboy, I have seen them and I have casted their games a bunch. So they are going to bring a lot of heat to this game since they are very well prepared for things such as these. Oboy is what I like to call kind of like a sleeper team. Now, definition for sleeper team would be a team that, although people don't really see them perform at their top in every single game possible, when it really does count and when it really does matter, they are not. They are ruthless, man.
Absolutely, yeah. And I feel like the killers supporting that today, Unknown, can be such a snowball. We've just seen Cynic and Eternal 4King each other on the Wrecker's Yard with the Unknown, so you can be absolutely with no mercy right there. Dredge has caused a lot of surprising results whenever Nightfall activated, and especially Bobosavre went wild on the opponent. We have seen a lot of 4Ks left and right, and I feel like this is a great test for both teams after the Wrecker's Yard to go onto Midwich, testing their communication, testing their coordination as a team, making sure they are not falling apart. Really like that. And if that wasn't enough, then we are seeing the Spirit. And Spirit is bringing a whole new touch into this best of three, I feel like.
Yeah, and I honestly am gonna be really surprised to see because I want to know how these sets are gonna go out. I do know Elysium is very strong against Dredge and Spirit, although I haven't actually seen them play it directly, and especially like Unknown and all these killers. I am gonna be going in here pretty much blind, Direwolf. These games are not or to say the least, very nerve-wracking. They definitely are about to be full of a bunch of surprises, and I can only really just leave it up to actually seeing the game in person to see what could potentially happen here. I mean, we could see a complete blowout of a 2-0 on Oboy for all we know. Even though Elysium is considered to be a super powerful team, we did literally just see a top team fall to the clutches of Cynic, and it has happened once before. So now going into this game, I am going full root for Oboy here, maybe to see at least such a powerful performance. I mean, I love both of these teams to death, man. These people are very respectable players in the community, and not to say they are very powerful, Direwolf.
Absolutely, and we're seeing the dangerous lobby in the background as well. That will be Obi, Oscar, and Dunder playing for Team Oboy. The fourth survivor is currently about to load in, and of course, who could it be for Elysium other than Xeno, one of the most experienced and one of the most skilled all-rounders. Also, I would feel like it's fair to describe Xeno. He almost plays every single killer. It doesn't matter how quick, how difficult, how much mechanical knowledge you need. We are ready to smash there. We don't have Dunder, by the way. That was misspoken by me. We have Daimao coming in. And Pale, of course, taken over from Team Synapse recently, short before Season 9 started, coming into Oboy, and has since then be a very nice addition. An aggressive player with a lot of knowledge as well, bringing or fitting for me exactly this spirit that we also see from Team Oboy. They are trying to be this aggressive team, this team that is trying to put pressure onto the killer. And what I really like, you see a lot of teams going really careful against a Zaka, a Nightlight, a Xeno, against any S-tier player like that. And Oboy, I always feel like they don't really care. They are saying, well, it can be Zaka, It can be Zeno. It could be, I don't know, Richard the 7th. We don't mind. We are going in with absolute energy and we have our game plan. And I feel like this is what makes Oboy so special in that regard.
Good Lord. Only time can actually tell how this is really going to go out. Now, going back at to what Zeno said, for what Direwolf said just about Zeno, that is something I can really heavily vouch for, because this guy is insane. I mean, he's been playing for how long now, Dire? Like, I believe around 5 years in the comp scene, which is insane.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
if not even longer. Like, this guy's comp experience goes literally through the roof. I don't know originally what team he started out on, but I do know he was very prominent around the times on Oracle.
Yeah, oh boy, like definitely we are also reaching the five-year mark. I feel like Oboy has been around for a long time. At least some of their players have been around a long time. And then Oboy had a story of going back and forth, some players leaving the team, joining somewhere else, and then they find back together. Then short after season 8, I believe, they were going back on disbanding, and some of them were playing in other teams. And then for season 9, there came this big announcement. I remember it when Mathis was in my messages telling me that Oboy is coming back specifically for season 9. So it was also planned, and I was really like, this is great news, because having Oboy back on the competitive stage does not only mean you have a skilled team with experienced players, it also means you have this very entertaining factor. You have this very aggressive team that is playing, and that's what we really appreciate. When we know going in a match like Eternal Elysium and you exactly know that this team is so difficult to beat, and it will be still a little bit of a surprise if Oboy would lose instantly. Therefore, we are going into the first match for this best of 3, which is going to be the Unknown on the Rackers Yard, Daimao, Oscar, Obi, and Pale for Oboy going against Zeno. And we are going to see a very, very doable 3-gen that is corrupted on this side of the Rackers Yard here, paired with the Ruin and protected later on, or at least a little bit of a penalty coming in by Pentimento. I feel like we have a good base kit here that could definitely fall into advantage of Zeno.
Yeah, now starting off with a very easy tag, and a very early one at that, after infecting Obi with the UVX Blast, and now going to be grabbing pretty much a 2-tap with absolutely zero resources on this side of the map to work with. A very good start for Zeno indeed, as now he's going to be moving over towards the middle-ish of the map next to the truck, which is fairly far away from the gen. Seems like Daimao is going to be setting up for save. We do see a lot of progress onto the gens, especially near top side right next to the big crane, so maybe going to be looking at that. Ends up finding Daimao out of position. He's probably going to be taking a tag here with the UVX Blast. He is going to be infected, needs to cleanse here by looking at the survivor, and now moving over towards the TNO wall next to somewhat fairly of an active gen. We do end up seeing that Ruin right there. A very powerful build, ends up teleporting back to quickly do that, and that is actually going to be a fairly good exchange for Zeno, although did not get much off on top of it, because we'll remember we only started with the hook and we still ended with the hook. No extra tags, and after not gonna lie, probably a very good 50-50 state for the game. Both Oboy and Elysium aren't in that bad of a situation right now, Dire.
Indeed, it's very open for now. You can definitely agree with that first hook stage there onto Obi. If you make a good penalty for the killer on the generators, and knowing Oboy, they should definitely be able to do that. The other half of the Rackers Yard was also free to access early on. Now we have the rotation here of a survivor towards that hook, trying to go for the rescue in a moment, and Zeno now leaving, going aggressively towards that next chase, but realizing that the injury will not be that easy, therefore returning to the hook. And it's surprising to see that only one generator is coming out as a penalty so far, so Zeno going back towards the hook is a very understandable choice. You will have an elimination in 25 seconds from now, and so far it does not look like a punishment by Oboy, and it does not look like the most efficient play coming out there. 2 generators potentially being completed in exchange for an entire survivor eliminated early on. This is problems for Team Oboy.
Oh my god, and now looking at Paliloop trying to go back in. He's getting blocked here perfectly. Not going to be able to get in front of Zeno, trying to go back around. But this, oh my god, body blocking coming through. And he gets in front of him once more. He's not. He's trying to get over to him. But unfortunately, he's going to be able to die. Unfortunate situation for Paliloop and Oboy entirely, as we are going to be looking at the first kill of the game at 3 gens remaining. Good lord. And now chasing Daimao straight off the rip. Not going to be committing to Paliloop, although Paliloop is injured. Tries to grip that quick tag with the UVX blast. They're now going to be looking over towards a TNO wall. Could be looking at a very unfortunate situation. Ends up getting off, cleansing it, but he's going to be taking an M1. Now moving in towards Shaq. A bit of a super tough spot here for Oboy, as they're gonna have to reset this one person. Now Daimao ends up finding that reset on top of Paliloop. Oscar is going to be in chase here. He's the last remaining healthy survivor. Maybe gonna be rotating around to see if they can reset with Pali and Daimao together. But right now, Zeno's plan is just to stay around Oscar and keep him in this situation. Oboy is in a super tough spot right now. Very easy to come back from this, but they are gonna have to require a good chase from Oscar to keep them in the game.
Indeed, and Oscar's also going down here, though. We do get rid of the Hex Ruin, but we will very soon face the Hex Pentimento as well. Zeno going for a little bit of a snipe here as well, trying to catch that survivor. Oscar will be hook stage number 4. That means at least you have 2 minutes of hang time, which can give you a little bit of wiggle room back onto the generators and getting the progress in. But the 2 injured survivors is definitely some sort of a handicap here for Team Oboy. They are deciding to not go for a reset here. They want to play for the generator win condition, which is honestly something that we need to consider here. We might not even talk about the outs here, because we are having an elimination on 3 generators remaining, only half of a repair progress on 1 generator. So statistically, looking into the past of Season 9, there is not really a high chance that they are doing it here, except Zeno would fall into some mistakes. And now we are catching Ash as well, who was on the way to the rescue. We will not get that rescue, and Ash is also going down right next to the hook into a pallet. And I'm not even sure if we get this gen spectral.
Good lord! Paliloop in a horrible situation. Not gonna have to pre-drop this pallet to see if he ends up getting enough time, but he ends up going over to the complete opposite side of the shack. Not going over to the pallet, but thanks to the shack pallet, he's gonna get a fair bit amount of distance off. And I think right now the struggle for Oboy is just to try and get a long chase here to save their dignity, because he's getting 4K 3'd is not a very good result, not for any killer. And with Pali getting completely trick-shotted by Zeno, which is so unfortunate, because if he kept hugging that loop there, he would have made it. He would have been completely safe. But Zeno getting a 4K3 for Elysium ends up just completely decimating the competition. Oboy in no way, shape, or form to rebuke this, man. Getting a 4K4 is almost impossible, Dyer.
My very deep analysis to this match is I, because this is not how we described Oboy in the campfire chat also. We were just talking about a team that is playing really aggressive, putting the killer on pressure, potentially taking an unexpected upset against strong teams. And if there is someone who can do that against teams like Eternal or Elysium, then we trust Oboy to do it. And now we are here in the reality. Campfire chat was the possibility. Oboy unfortunately was not able to show us this potential. Therefore, as you mentioned, 4K on 3 remaining generators, which means a number of things for the upcoming trial. Elysium will be able to ignore a 4-gen basically, as they just need to get 3 generators completed. It's usually already difficult when you are having 1 gen remaining, because then your team can ignore a 3-gen, but being able to ignore a 4-gen is really rough. We will have a look in a second onto the showcase video of the Wrecker's Yard, where you can really see how it's possible in the pockets to have 3 or 4-gen setups, but we would essentially need a 5-gen setup, and this is really rare onto the Wrecker's Yard. So we'll see that in a moment in the showcase, but this win condition is just going to be a huge setback for Oboy here. So they need to figure something out for the killer side. The perks are set, so somehow they need to go for that with all their motivation and all their laugh, and potentially they need to make sure that they are somehow making a miracle happen here. We will find out, ladies and gentlemen, if Oboy is able to pull this power together, and we will see you right after a short break.
Hello and welcome everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the one and only DBDLeague. Joined here, I am your caster specTral, here with the one and only head honcho himself, the top, the organizer, the man, the myth, the legend, the direwolf. Here casting alongside me is going to be OBII on Oboy. Good lord, I get those two really mixed up. But OBII on Oboy facing Elysium survivors is going to be Marcos, Silhe, Pedro, and Zeno. A very powerful roster, direwolf. Now 4K4. I'm pretty sure you and me both know, and although we want to say otherwise, it's probably going to be a win for Elysium. But how do you think, what result do you think Oboy is actually going to be able to get, especially with such an early down onto Pedro just now, and whoa, on Zeno, a really fast tag.
And this is the danger we have sometimes. Whenever the win condition is looking very clear, there is the tendency to feel really strong for a good reason. You feel very good and very safe also for a good reason, but sometimes in moments like these, where you have an unexpected first down, your flashlight player is caught out, and if this is a quick down onto Zeno, then you might not be in the strong position as you think. So Zeno hopefully being able here to stay alive a lot longer, having this pallet here showing us patience as well, right next to the hook, where you usually would say now is time to panic because you might have a very unfortunate downing location. Zeno is just showing off the nerves of steel here. Marcos is saving in the meanwhile, is getting injured here. Pedro will just face the tunnel out, which is an understandable decision because Obi needs to force the 3v1 if he wants to have any chance of defending the generators against 4 survivors. That will be too difficult, and it's not looking too good, but unfortunately the UVX shot is getting stuck in the tile there. Very unfortunate for our killer. Obi will make a little bit of distance, or allow a little bit of distance to the survivor. Pedro back onto the full charge of the UVX and not going to be downed here as well. And this would have need to be a quick tunnel out. We need the quick down again. Now with the first gen flying, I do feel like Obi is losing slowly the control over the win condition.
That was such a great start for him though. He had a very fast tag onto Zeno, a very fast down onto Pedro, and we just watched direwolf as it slowly slipped out of his hands. Now, unfortunately for Elysium, they have lost all pressure on their gens, you know, because they did crank out those 2 gens while Zeno was helping support Chase and while Pedro was being tunneled out. So they are going to have to start another gen fresh, and especially with that amazing teleport from Oboy. And oh wait, we're actually going to be looking at a slug play right now. Zeno's going to be going down, Pedro's going to be on hook, tag going to be going through onto Marcos right now with that M1, going to be looking for a snipe with the UVX blast, ends up getting off on top. Such an amazing start for him as well. Now could be looking at a 4-man slug. This is definitely what he's going to need to grit this, to get this tie and keep the score at 0-0, which is going to be extremely unfortunate for Elysium. Indeed, tries to go for that down. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to get it. Zeno is going to be saved on top of the hook. Now going to be going back over towards Shaq with the teleport. Maybe looking to interrupt anybody running in for the save. But right now, as I warm up my voice, we're going to have to think clearly as this killer. What do we want here? Marcos is going to be completely cleansed, meaning that this chase is going to be fresh, only with an injury going through. Pedro going to be dead on hook with nobody around to save him. Maybe going to be looking for a reset or just cranking out the final gen to avoid any chance of a tiebreaker. But now Elysium's job is actually, they're going to be splitting it. This is such a very smart decision, meaning that any chase, whoever's being chased right now is the non-focus of this entire group, as they're going to be going over to double the gen that isn't currently being pressured. Such a smart play by Elysium. And consider it small, as now Silhe is actually going to be running in to take one last chase here for his team to quickly end the game, as now Elysium is really just riding on the fact of Silhe's powerful chase here, but Obi's job is just to get this down as quick as possible. Now, Direwolf, this is not a good situation for Oboy at all, as they're about to pop this final gen.
Absolutely, yeah. Just catching it in time here, we have to say. Obi basically coming last second towards the generator that is about to be completed, and even though he's about to down Marcos here potentially, there's the possibility of a second survivor coming over towards this gen, so you only have the slug right here. In the meanwhile, though, Silhey, right after dropping the chase, going back on another generator, and so did Zeno, right back on the 90% generator. He is taking the down. Everything that follows now does not really matter any longer, because the first win condition is the completed generators, and now we have Elysium being up by 1 gen. Of course, you would like to have more than that, because with a 4K of just 1 generator difference, you do tell Oboy that it was just close, so the confidence drop that Oboy is receiving from this trial is potentially not that high any longer, since it was just 1 generator here. But Elysium definitely playing around the win condition, taking the necessary risk to keep the killer busy, getting that 3rd generator done. And sometimes DBD comp teams have to play it like the students in school. You want to try to win or try to be successful with the least amount of effort that you have to put in, and that's definitely what we have seen here. So good awareness around the win condition. Congratulations to Team Elysium for taking the first set point, still with quite some confidence here.
What?
And
what? Wait, did he just unhook himself? Yeah, he did, and he's just standing in front of it, you know, obviously not taking... I can respect that, you know, maybe he held his mouse for too long, small mistake, but, you know, he stands in front of it, that's good sportsmanship, because he doesn't abuse the fact that he just got off basically for free. You know, in the comp scene, a lot of people have actually used it against the comp scene, saying, oh, you guys don't allow these things and whatnot. Well, I mean, take the unhooked into account. Like, that guy did not have deli. It wasn't 100% guaranteed. It wasn't a skillful play, because after all, for deli to get you that 100% unhook, you need to get a safe unhook, meaning you have to do it safely. You have to take a lot of things into account, and that was just straight luck there. So I don't know, obviously, what we're probably going to do, whether that's going to be a penalty or not. He didn't.
No,
like,
it's fine.
it
So
yeah, we'll just
to come in clutch for all the people that are interested in the rules, we do have that you're not allowed to self unhook, and you would actually forfeit the set, with the exception of 21.5, which says it doesn't apply when all survivors are hooked. In this case, speeding up the death is allowed. If a successful self-unhook happens, the survivor team will not be punished if they stay at the exact location, do not use any perk, or attempt to escape. This rule does not apply when one of the hooked survivors has the perk deli, which is not the case here. But yeah, we also get the confirmation from the background. We also get the confirmation from the background that they are indeed having received very explicit instruction by Zeno to not mess this speeding up death. So they did a really good job, and everything is very fine here. There's not going to be a penalty, as it should be, because it hasn't impacted anything. Good rule awareness there by Elysium. So we are moving forward, 1-0 for Elysium, and we'll see you after a short break. Ladies and gentlemen, DBD enjoyers, Valorant enjoyers, Midwich Elementary School enjoyers, Larry's Memorial Institute enjoyers, Europeans, Americans, killer players, survivor mains, chest looters, totem cleansers, gen rushes, Steam minus rep writers, and everyone else. Wonderful day in the DBDL, since we are on the Dredge here, who has brought us some very, very amazing games in Season 9. So far, we have seen so many ups and downs. We have seen strong survivor teams struggling against this killer, and therefore we are hyped to see what Obi is going to be doing against the survivor team of Elysium that hasn't changed roster-wise, with Marcos, Silhey, Pedro, and Zeno. We do get a first injury relatively quickly here. Will be interesting also what approach Obi is going for. Bobazava usually going for a lot of teleports, trying to confuse the survivor team. Other Dredges more aggressively going for that first chase, trying to get the down as quick as possible, and it seems to be the first chase approach. You want to have the first hook stage as quick as possible and then working from there, which I think is a good decision, except though Pedro will be able to reach this God pallet over here.
Yeah, and a lot of distance is going to be made on top of that. I do love Dredge sets for one reason. It allows for a very, very, very different outlook on communications among the survivors. I mean, one big example is definitely calling out, hey guys, this locker's locked, you can take chase over here, and you're going to be a lot safer than you were there just before. But now stuck in a horrible 50-50 where he unfortunately lost it as he did try to W key to make it over to the next pallet. That is going to be the first down of the game, as now Obi and Oboy as a team are going to be looking at a fairly easy advantage. They are losing a gen and about to lose another one. And from what we do know, from what Bubbazaver is so very well skilled at doing, is being able to hold 3 gens. Now, I'm unsure, are we even looking at a 3 gen here right now, Dyer? I mean, these gens are kind of fairly split, and although they can be considered to be relatively close, there's not any like upstairs, downstairs, and somewhere just nearby, like right next to each other. After all, there's nothing crazy here, which is kind of sad for OB in general, as I feel like Elysium might just have that luck to get that gen. But that's going to be the second gen of the game popping, as we do drop one of the final super powerful god pallets, and now left to fend for ourselves as we go over towards the bathroom. And we're actually going to be running around it, Dyer. Super interesting decision, as it is going to waste a lot of time, but unfortunately, whoa. That was a slight mistake. Was it a mistake or was it a plan?
Not entirely sure. I think he was ending up a lot further from the pallet than intended, and also the throw of the pallet looked really optimistic there, trying to reach the Omega hitbox of the Dredge. That's not going to work here though, so a little bit of a setback for Elysium. They need to take care of Pedro, they need the unhook, and then Pedro needs to be able to put up quite a run. Potentially they can go for a double reset or taking a few body blocks here, but you definitely don't want to have the survivor dying on 3 generators remaining. Obi will just teleport back in time. Very well done here from Obi, trying to block the survivors around in the hallway. Does manage that for good 1.5 seconds, and will therefore be able to get rid of that base kit BT a little bit better. Pedro though with a lot of responsibility here. You want to have a longer run, you want to make sure that you are giving time to your team to clean out these generators, but it will be rough, especially when it's so dark. Though Pedro having a good orientation here, reaching the next pallet, has to hold W though, because he doesn't want to go in the mind game with the Dredge right here. Will drop another pallet, and all these little seconds, they actually make a huge difference here. That was 1 generator that is now coming out. You will die on pallet as well. Surprisingly this time, Elysium is not setting up a survivor, instead resetting Xeno. So they have accepted their fate, and they have made sure that they are at least taking care of the team before losing that team member.
That was a very good play there by Pedro, getting a pretty good 3 gen run before their death. Now, although it could be better, because remember, it is a Dredge set, it's a fairly weak M1, it only has a very strong teleport power to support them, and if you do play it correctly, there's almost nothing they can do about that teleport right there, as we do see that big example. Obi grabbing a tag onto Marcos, now going to be going over towards the science room with the teleport to instantly come back out, going to be breaking that quick lock on the locker, and actually getting in front of Xeno is going to do a lot of damage for this team, as Marcos is going to be one of the survivors right now that is still injured, now joined alongside by Xeno, as Silhey is the only last healthy survivor, maybe cranking a gen, maybe rotating to reset Marcos, because anybody caught out of position right now versus a Dredge, especially on a map like this, is going to be nothing but shambles for the enemy team. Now looking for a quick down onto Xeno, holding it directly on top of that pallet. Could be seeing a quick 50-50 lose here, but it seems like every single time he is never committed to this teleport, Dyer.
Indeed, and now it's getting a little bit hectic here as well. Xeno being down, Marcos being found, who was repairing this generator. We are going on a slug. That means that Silhey is now supposed to turn towards Xeno, getting the pickup right there. And this means that no survivor on Team Elysium is working on a generator any longer. And this is the power of a 3v1. And this is why the killers are trying to remove a survivor as quick as they can from the trial. Because whenever you're able to put up a situation like this, the generator pressure drops down to 0, and there is potential for more. We just received the pickup, meaning that we have an injured Xeno around, an injured Marcos who we can potentially teleport as well. Now is the question though, how long will this chase go on? Will Obi be put on a run by Xeno? That would mean that Marco and Silhey can reorganize themselves onto the generators. Unfortunately, Xeno will not help himself with the double vault right here. Survivors not on the reset and also not on the generators yet, so the time that Zeno was able to take from Obi has not impacted the trial just yet. Silhey will also be going into the injured state, so we don't have a survivor that can take a lot of risk any longer. And now Obi is reaching closer towards the chance of getting a 4K here, yet one longer run can destroy everything that he has built up so far.
This is honestly almost no man's land, Direwolf, as now we're actually looking at him finding a huge reset. And oh my god, the amount of value that he's gotten from Sloppy Butcher just now, right there, reducing those heals to completely zero, meaning that they're going to have to meet up again to get another heal that is so heavily slowed down. And if that reset's interrupted, good lord, that's only more time that has been wasted. So they might not even try to risk that. They might see if they could just crack out one more gen, swings at it. Marcos is going to go down, trying to drop a firecracker to support himself in chase, but unfortunately, like every other situation seen before us, they are never able to get that firecracker off. Like, it's always a last resort situation, and it just never works out for some reason. Now forced into a tough spot. Silhey, for some reason, did not leave the gen immediately. Now, I think this could be considered a small bit of a mistake, as he does end up trying to get in front of him, but it seems like he is going to end up showing himself off in different lockers. I don't know whether he was trying to get in front of him, around him, or even closer to him, but he does end up catching onto him either way. Now going to be in another very, very risky pallet. He does have the window here to support him, but very good zoning here could easily destroy him. Now, I am unsure as to whether he's going to see if he can potentially... Oh, no, it's a super unfortunate 50-50 win that he actually ends up going through. That is such an amazing play there from Silhey. Ends up double backing. Great 50-50 win. He's going to win it one more time. An amazing gen, and he makes the window. Unfortunately for him, there's still a pallet here to completely interrupt and going to be breaking that. Now going to be going back over towards the opposite room. Just such a perfect play by Silhey, grabbing in this amazing loop, literally bringing his team out from the trenches. They pop the gen, they get the unhook, and he is completely saved. Silhey, good lord, such an amazing play.
Absolutely insane what they have just shown here. Silhey with the absolute W chase, worth potentially all 5 generators even, because that was so much time for the survivor team here. Silhey and Zeno either have enough time to meet up and go for a reset because they earn some seconds, or going for that final generator. Marcos is going to be thrown onto the hook, but it's just hook stage number 5 so far. 60 seconds at least until we would move into that 2v1 scenario, though we catch a survivor over here. That is Silhey. Will we see another amazing chase as we have just seen before, vaulting quickly into the other direction in time, forcing Obi to destroy this breakable wall, and therefore losing a little bit of time catching the 2 survivors that were just resetting over here. They are aware that the killer is coming back holding W, but do they find the resources they need for a longer chase? Quick teleport onto the locker closer to Zeno, closing the gap of distance here and putting Zeno under pressure, who's now forced to go into this difficult mind game, but it's not even coming to that because Zeno will be reached in time. Marcos in the hallway trying to get the orientation, and Silhey needs to be really careful around this generator locker right next to it, and there we see why Silhey needed to be careful. Zeno calling out that the killer is around, and therefore very well done once again on the coordination here.
Now with Silhey in chase here, potentially being the final one, or the final real chase that we're going to be looking at here, but no, as I say that, I'm completely interrupted by the fact of Zeno getting picked up. Now he's trying to go back to see if he can pick up on top of the reset, which he's actually going to be able to, and now finding Zeno out of position, going to be grabbing another down, now going to be chasing Marcos, and Marcos in a super tough spot right now, as he's going to be forced over towards the courtyard of the map. Very, very strong loops here to work with, especially the house that he can build right next to the clock tower, but he's going to have to make it over there if he's going to want to get into that situation first. Ends up swinging through, hit through the pallet. Marcos is going to go down, 2-man slug currently in the situation, still being the last survivor standing. Now just focusing on killing Marcos, which is a very, very smart decision indeed, as this is going to reduce it completely to a 2v1. And now Silhey not moving over to pick up Zeno just yet. He is fairly far away, so there is a chance for him to be able to interrupt it. He's just going to have to be careful. We do see the killer off there in the distance. He's trying to stealth around the hallway lockers to make himself get a lot closer, and we do end up catching on top of him. Now going to be teleporting directly in front of him. Is he going to be able to get the pickup? And that is actually going to be the case. Zeno getting off the floor, being the final chase of the game, as the Dredge is now going to be moving over, swinging through, wasting so much more time. He makes the pallet, but he ends up for some reason not dropping it, expecting him to respect that. That was such a weird play there, Tiger. Holy. It's very well played by
It was worth a shot,
Elysium.
I guess. So sometimes you have to try. If a miracle is needed, you have to try. And yeah, we see the result here. It's a 4K on 1 gen remaining, which is first a very common result for the Dredge on Midwich Elementary School. Appears very often to be the result in Season 9. And secondly, it is the most tie-causing result in the DBDLeague. It's not 4K0, as a lot of people anticipated a while back. It is actually 4K1. This final generator carries a magic, and I mean, it's understandable, right? If you lose a survivor early, or if you have a difficult 3-gen, then 1-gen standing at the end is an understandable consequence. So 4K1 might lead us into a tie here. In this case, we would play the Spirit, and then if that's not enough, then we would need to come back to Midwich. But all of this is going a little bit into speculation, at least, because we are aware that we have Zeno as a very, very strong killer there on the other side. So Oboy's survivor team will need to show us 4 generators first, because before we can talk about any possible tie here. Will be interesting after we switch the sides. So Oboy will be on the survivor side, Elysium very likely with Zeno on the killer side, and we'll say goodbye and we'll see you after a short intermission.
As Direwolf once said, a beautiful day outside here for the staff at the DBDL. In fact, it's actually not going to be a beautiful day for Oboy, as they need to lock in now in a super tough situation here with Elysium versus Oboy. I'm your caster, specTral, joined here by the one and only Direwolf, who will be casting alongside me here. This very, very amazing match, as we're going to be seeing Zeno on the Dredge, potentially for the final game, which I'm not going to lie, I hope it is the final game, man. These sets are super sleeper, but I do have these players here keeping me company, because I'm not gonna lie, you and me would probably agree that these sets are very, very boring, but the players that are playing them make them so much more exciting, as there are so many potential plays here that could come into account, especially with the first chase here onto Daimao, who Daimao's actually going to be adapting a very, very odd style of looping, not going to be going around any tiles, just making it itself over towards, well, a very big long wall, and super unfortunate situation for him. Now forced into a different 50-50. Now teleporting back, a very well placed teleport is going to get that down onto Daimao's. Daimao for some reason uses his flashlight to try and mess up the killer. That was a little weird, but well played by Daimao, wasting a little bit of time, and well played by Zeno, grabbing it very fast down.
Indeed. One thing that you mentioned is really important there. For a lot of people, the Dredge, when you hear it, appears to be boring, but a Dredge in DBDL with these two teams is the absolute opposite. Here we have strategy, here we have nice gameplay, and here we are also testing this communication so well. When is the killer teleporting? Is he teleporting in time? Do we anticipate where he will check next? All of this is really making the difference in turning the Dredge from a very, very unloved killer in the normal matches potentially to a very, very loved machine in competitive DBD. Therefore, we are going to see the first down relatively fast coming in as well. We are having a few survivors scattering across the elementary school, trying to get the pressure in. And it is somewhat slow going on the side of Oboy, though. We have 10% on this generator over here. Meanwhile, Zeno will get rid of some valuable resource, and Daimao is actually going into the second stage here. So Oboy on the pressure now, 45 seconds until the elimination is coming through. And this is something they need to prevent, and they not only have to prevent this by getting the unhook, they need a longer chase afterwards, potentially throwing in some bodies, and we need a longer run here.
I mean, Daimao actually might even die here. Remember, the win condition is to get 4K2, which is very beneficial for Oboy. And the tie condition 4K1 is not exactly the worst start. I mean, if you're in Oboy's position, needing to grab almost everything here is very, very crucial for a player such as these. Daimao right now about to die on first gen. They're just trying to crank out these next 3 gens, which is a very smart decision if you ask me, because in this spot, wait, are they doubling? No, they're not. They're actually splitting all 3 gens. They do and are about to reach a very, very close point to the tie condition with these 2 gens being popped, but right now interrupted. Oboy is going to be running away from the gen now. Ruin going to be passively regressing that gen, meaning that he does not have to kick in and can immediately go after Obi, which is a very, very smart start. Now, he does have to be careful for Oscar and Pale, as it seems like they are looking to rotate over for that gen. Staying on top of that now, a tag onto Obi, as now Obi's going to be moving himself over towards the medical room. Not going to be committing to this chase, and instead actually going to be going back over, going to be catching Pally Loop a little bit out of position, but he has a lot of distance to get himself back into shape. Now, the unfortunate circumstance for these survivors right now is to try and keep track of where this killer is. Now, thanks to some locks and some lockers, they are going to be able to find him out, and they're going to have a lot of distance to make a good amount of time. Now, generally, this amount of macro from Xeno is just such an amazing play here. Now going to be forced into this L wall, seemingly going to be seeing if he can keep him there, but now just staying at the 50-50 with the window is going to be really, really smart for him. He's going to have to abuse the distance here, which he does end up doing so. Now going to be winning a 50-50, catching on to Oscar. An instant teleport is going to be resulting into a tag. Very smart play there from Xeno, as he does end up using the surprise of the moment to catch up on top of Oscar. Now maybe looking for a 2-tap. Unfortunately, that lock is going to get in front of him. Now going to be free dropping that God Pound to get even more distance on top of him and safely get Oboy back into position. This is nothing short of just a very, very, very strong mechanical match, Dyer. Now, they are going to have to reset, meaning that it is all going to slow down, with Pally being the only survivor being able to, you know, move around, look for something. He's even scouting a little bit here. It seems like he's not exactly getting on a gen in this moment, but this is a very, very slow strategical performance. But we are going to be seeing them there at the bottom. Oh, is he going to be able to sneak up on top of him, though?
He is, unfortunately, and Oboy needs to make some drastic technical and tactical decisions here as well. Are we going for the reset? If we can, unfortunately, that will be difficult, except we're throwing in a buddy, so Obi can take a little bit of distance here. We also need to make the decision how aggressive we want to be on the generators from now on. Will we pull back from time to time, or will we just try to somehow maybe bring it to a tie, or further than that? All of these are questions that the survivor team of Oboy has to answer for themselves. They do smash the 3rd generator for now. 2 injured survivors. Will we see the reset, a little bit of time back, saving the area, cleaning the lockers, and making sure that they will get at least a little bit of head start when the teleport would come through, and Xeno knows exactly where to look for them. Very, very fantastic teleport coming out right here, putting them back onto pressure, and now we can only hope that Oscar is going to be able to keep Xeno busy for a little bit, but the 50-50 mind game on this pallet is not going to be successful for Team Oboy. Therefore, we are having a slug now. Xeno trying to find another survivor. Going for the teleports here. We do have some scratch marks in the hallway and one survivor running over there. Obi is close towards the other stuck survivor as well, so it's good that he gets the vault there and makes a little bit of distance. And just as in the previous trial, we are now with the difficulty that no survivor can work on the generators anymore, as the 3rd survivor is responsible for the pickup. Xeno tried to zone that survivor back on the top next to the down survivor, but Obi will make at least the turn right there. 2nd quick teleport by Xeno, getting Pally, the final healthy survivor, injured as well. And now it's 2 injured survivors trying to fight against Xeno. Oscar is getting the vault right here, dropping down into the courtyard. That will be a lot of time waste for Xeno to go all the way back up the staircase, and we are going to see the locker grab being forced. The slug party is coming to an end here.
wait, but maybe not as he completely drops it. Now Xeno going to be looking for more fresh blood to completely grab. Unfortunately, not going to be supported by Nightfall here, meaning that his teleports are going to be very slow. So he's going to have to catch up onto these survivors after playing a little bit of running around. Now, he does not actually find anyone immediately just yet. So now he is going to have to kind of retrack and find ground again as we're going to be switching over towards our survivors. We do end up seeing Obi. Good lord. So I need to stop calling that guy Oboy. Getting back on the gen, seeing if he can bring back this tie condition, which is definitely necessary for this team to try and save it. Now, he does end up hearing that pressure onto the generator, so he's probably going to be walking up there and carefully keeping his teleport ready for the courtyard, which is very beneficial for these survivors, especially in the situation that they're in right now. They're going to have to forcefully grab as many stages or as much progress as possible. They need to keep trading states, not stages. And now there's going to be a very, very quick down as Obi's going to be losing a 50-50 there onto the teleport, which is going to be very, very bad for or should I say Obi, not Elysium, as Elysium's actually in a very, very good spot right now. About to be chased. He's very close by. Pally is going to be in a bit of a position here. He's going to hold his check spot against the Dredge and is going to get a lot of distance. Still has this God Pallet here, which is very beneficial. Now, deciding whether he wants to drop it or not is a complete statement. But it seems like we're not going to be committing to Pally Loop. Instead, we're going to be going over towards Oscar, who is going to be pre-dropping this pallet, keeping his distance on top of this killer one more time, making his way over to the window. I feel like he could have made that, but he opts to not do that. And a very smart play indeed, is now Xeno's going to be breaking the pallet and giving him a little bit more distance. He has the God Pallet to work with, which he decides to run away from, since he's upstairs, and he doesn't have anything to support his drop. That was a weird black spike that I just witnessed on my end, but I guess we're back in business. And now, actually seeing as that is going to be completely locked, another chase is going to be reinitiated on the top of Oscar, as it seems like right now this guy can't simply get a break, but just going to be focusing on getting over closer to the survivors, interrupting this reset right now. Obi's reset progress is going to be going down to 0 as we're going to be committing towards Pally Loop, the last healthy survivor. Very smart play indeed, as he ends up going off to the opposite side of the loop, which is a smart decision, as that's going to waste a lot of time for his team, although he is not going to be taking a tag as the auto aim is going to be going through, getting another stun. Xeno is going to be in a completely unfortunate situation. Good lord, that is not what you want in this super, super tough spot right now. And they're doubling a fresh gen. This is a very smart decision. Oh, but they are going to be trailed right behind Dire.
It's incredible how Oboy is dealing with this situation. They are having so much pressure on their side, and they were threatened multiple times now with losing a survivor in the next few seconds, and they are not giving up at all. This is the Oboy we talked about in the campfire chat, always having an additional thing to say, always having an additional play prepared, and when it's important, like right here in the courtyard, when you need to stay alive, then Oscar is getting out the nerves of steel, not going for the vault there, and Xeno losing quite some time. No down coming out, Nurse is calling, doing a little bit of work right here for our killer, showing him where to go, but we are going to the IKEA loop, building ourselves a house. Xeno doesn't really like that, therefore he's going for the very ambitious swing, but even now Oscar is popping off. Oscar is showing us what he got. Eventually he is finally, we have to say, going down right here, and Obi now is taking the risk, and my question would be, why do you go for so much risk? Luckily though, we are not able to follow that survivor, because that would have been a very drastic turn against Oboy here. Pally is going to take the injury, which will be unfortunate for Oboy, and we can only hope that they calculated the timing here and that they both make it out of this corner, because anything else would be really, really punishing for them. Though Xeno has this generator here next to the classroom, where you really need to make sure that it's not going to be completed anytime soon. Therefore, the survivors in the courtyard a little bit safe due to the pressure they have earned. We are going back in the courtyard and back to the IKEA loop, trying to build ourselves a house once more. We are seeing the blind right here, leaves us with one pallet remaining. The mind game coming out, and unfortunately it's now going to be Obi taking the down right here. Yeah, looking good so far. In terms of the gameplay, it is absolutely impossible to tell who is winning. Now you tend to say that Xeno is winning again, looking at this double down. It looked like this a few minutes ago, then Oboy is coming back. So I still say, even though with Oscar being in the final chase. Oscar will, I don't know, run, suddenly teleport, find a mystery hatch that we haven't discovered in 8 years of DBD yet, and he will somehow escape. But unfortunately, all of this will be a remaining hope for the fans of Team Oboy, as we are having the down, and that should seal the deal here, making the difference by 1 generator and being the 2-0 for Team Elysium.
That was such an intense and a very, very, very exciting match to watch. Like, I can't stress enough how genuinely, like, nerve-wracking. That was on edge, literally to the teeth of whether, like, hairs away from either victory or loss, because oh boy, they didn't need to win this set. They could have just popped one more gen, and then they're gonna have to go to the tiebreaker set with a 1-0 or a 1-0 disadvantage, which is just going to be very, very, very difficult for Elysium to try and easily close out, although they are going to have to win one more match after that. But now they just completely crushed that dream. They crushed that, like, all chances altogether. It leaves me speechless completely, because that was just an amazing match. And now we're going to have to look around for the survivors. Honestly, if I was the survivors at this point, I would just look for the killer myself, because I'm not going to lie, man. Kind of annoying, you know, just kind of walking around looking for the survivors and never end up finding them. We do end up finding one. Who's going to be found. And yeah, now to reflect on that match, that was just incredibly amazing. I mean, we saw the super fast downs coming through from Xeno, Oscar's amazing loops there, and they both built a house there, Dyer. It was insane. But what are we doing? What are we doing here? Just pick him up, Xeno. Hook him. We're just looking at him spaz out on the floor. I don't think he's okay. Obi, are you alright? Obi, what's going on?
I think we are celebrating a bit there.
Good lord. Well, now we're finally back to the normal game. As now these survivors are going to be sacrificed to the entity, and Xeno does actually know where the survivor is, as the crows are going to be above them, and of course giving off those noise notifications, which is going to be perfect for us, as that will quickly end our match. An incredibly amazing match here for the DBDL, and I'm not gonna lie, for a final match, that was such a good one. Unfortunately for Oboy, like I did end up saying at the beginning of this game, they did not come through like I originally had hoped. I do know they're an extremely powerful team, and they should still be treated as such, even though they did lose. But remember, it's Elysium we're talking about. These guys are like the top of the top, the peak of the peak, the top percentage when it comes to comp. So there's definitely going to be a lot of fight here. And unfortunately, Oboy was just unable to keep the amount of intense pressure that Xeno kept up on top of them. But that does not at all ignore the fact of what they were able to perform in this game alone. Like, that was just insane what they were able to do. They completely kept the pressure going through, with Xeno here showing off an intense amount of macro and mechanics and just intense game sense. Of course, Nurse's Calling, a lot of people, you know, were kind of iffy probably on top of seeing Nurse's Calling, because it's a perk that you don't exactly see in comp too much. It's an information perk, and a lot of people excuse it, saying that, oh, if you have good game sense, then you won't need a perk like Nurse's Calling. Xeno has amazing game sense, but he used it here because of the amount of pressure and the amount of value it gets on a killer like Dredge, being able to teleport all around the map and getting all of this information on these survivors, especially with a perk like Sloppy Butcher. But as the survivors are going to be finally killed here, that's going to be it here for DBDL, and especially me. You guys can catch me at Oculus Army if you ever want to see me anywhere, maybe on Twitch, maybe a YouTube video, blah, blah, blah.